episode may contain language or discussions that may be offensive or triggering. Refer to the episode summary for details. And today I am joined by four of my buddies. First, my sister and slash manager, Tisha, and my buddy Sonya, and my buddy George, and my buddy Arlando. And today we're talking about this assertion that Black women feel unprotected. This discussion is going to go beyond romantic relationships as we attempt to define what it means to have each other's backs. Our goal in this discussion is to identify ways that Black men and women can more effectively communicate our needs while we meet the needs of our partners and our other brothers and sisters. So the first question I have for the four of you is just this idea of what it means to be protected. I was talking to my sister about it earlier, and just it's a conversation that we have a lot, especially in the Black community, because people circulate that Malcolm X quote about the Black woman being the most unprotected, woman in America. And that's a really loaded statement, because when we make that assertion, we're assuming that everybody has the same concept of what it means to protect and to be protected. We're assuming that Black men don't also feel unprotected. So the first question I have for the four of you is, what does it mean for you to be protected, for you to feel protected?
Well, for me, I was going to say, for me, it is a level of security, whether it's no matter what the relationship is going to be, whether, romantically, in my friendships, and what is security? That just means I need to be able to depend on you. I mean, it needs to go both ways. We need to have reciprocation. Okay, that's part of my protection, and it's going to be more on a mental, physical, emotional, just like you said, it's a loaded question, but I needed to hit every single, level there in order for me to feel, safe, secure. A lot of my friends have a thing where it's truth and consistency. So if you're going to do something, do it. If you're going to do something, do it. If you're going to be somewhere, be there. If you say that I can, rely on you, show me more than just speaking. So I think when you add all of that in together, that for me gives me a level of protection, no matter what the relationship status is.
Okay. I agree. That was good. I can piggyback off that. When I think about protection from, let's say, a spouse, I want him to be confident in himself, because if he's confident in himself, then he'll be able to show me the confidence and make me feel safe in the decisions that he may make, which will in turn make me feel secure and allowing him to be the man of the house or whatever the case may be. I just want for him to be confident in himself, and that will bring me security, because if you got a guy that's unsure of himself and is not sure what he's trying to do or, looking goals, then how am I going to feel secure if he's unsure of what he's trying to attain in life?
I'm happy to jump in. This is Arlando. When I think about that, if you can hear me, family, relationships, business, I think about security in a sense of supporting each other. When I was growing up, the man was supposed to be the provider, and the woman's supposed to hold down the house and take care of the children. I think a lot about family structure, especially today, when it comes to our younger generation and some of the values that have been lost just within the Black community as a whole. But overall, it's how far can we help each other get, right? Versus being all about ourselves. And I think about the Black man today. A lot of Black men are selfish, especially when they do make it. And unfortunately, the Black woman sometimes will put up with a lot when it comes to the type of man that approaches them, and that area of setting those benchmarks and boundaries. So it's a lot to it. That's a big question, Charlene, but that's some of the areas that I think of when I think about the protecting each other, and that's on both sides.
Oh, I guess it's on me now.
Yeah, George.
Oh,
We
okay.
are all like holding our breath.
What happened? You froze up. Oh, my bad. Okay, so the question was, what is protection? I want to make sure I want to get the right question answered.
Well, the question is, what does it mean for you to be protected? So we're not talking about how we protect our partners and others yet. We're talking about what does it take for you to feel protected?
Okay, well, that's like everybody else said, it's a very, well, my man Orlando, I definitely heard him say it. It's an open-ended question that says, how much of yourself will you be able to sacrifice? Not necessarily that. Let me say that differently. How much will you be willing to be selfless in helping me and us to move forward? So it's a very broad question, but if I can answer it really quickly, I would just say it's just like family. Okay, Black men and Black women are family, so we gotta protect each other as such. I mean, for me, protection is a huge thing right now because I am a protector. Earlier today, I had an incident where I had to protect 2 kids while there was a shooting around the corner and getting them to cover, one of them being my children. So at the end of the day, I'm a protector. You know, I jump to doing what I have to do. So I know the 100% meaning of protection, and what that means is I'm going to help us move forward. That's what protection means. Protection means I'm not going to do anything that's going to help set us back. I'm going to do everything to keep us progressing.
Okay. So I'm gonna dig in on you men a little bit more, because what's interesting, the difference, what I heard in the responses from the ladies and the men is that the women were very specific in terms of characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
And George and Orlando, y'all were broader. And I want to explore, because I think there's some specific traits or actions that women can do to make you feel protected. Because when you say do things that help us move forward and don't pull us back, I still don't necessarily know what that means.
Okay.
So specific traits, like what are actions that, and not just in a romantic relationship, but what can someone as your friend, a female friend, do to help you feel protected? What is it that versus what your companion should be doing to make you feel protected? And even if you give examples, you don't have to name names, but times in relationships where both of you men have felt protected or even unprotected, because sometimes we can illustrate what we need by talking about what we didn't get.
Okay, I'll jump it off if you don't mind. Specifically, as Black men, you'll hear me use a lot of chess references in this conversation, okay? Because I always say it's chess, not checkers, all right? So in chess, the queen is the protector of the king and is a very powerful piece. The king only moves one space at a time, and that's it. So what that means is, as the woman, you have to understand that you have a lot more power than you think. We have the physical power, but you have the power of, I guess I would say, I don't know if it's a spiritual power, but I would go as far as to say it's a spiritual power, because women's intuition is something that's very prominent in women. So for me, I was in an unprotected situation because as great of a father as I was, and the mother knew that, I still had to go through a lot of channels to show and prove to my son, hey, I'm here. But the court is a very unprotected place for men. I've went in courtrooms and saw men get broken. Okay, I watched the Miss Doubtfire movie the other day, and I'll be honest with you, I broke into tears because after going through what I had to go through, I didn't realize that, damn, I was going through some shit. I was getting broken down and didn't really realize it. But although I was going and watching all of these men looking like zombies in there, I'm like, oh man, this is where men come and get their balls chopped off. So wow. It's like there is a system that's designed, in my personal opinion, there's a system that's designed to help I would say women more than men. And I would say that as far as protecting us, the best thing that women can do is allow men to be men, and not allow men to be men and do all kind of outlandish things, but be men as far as if you decided to bring me into your life, know that I'm here for protection, and don't try to abuse it after I'm not able to do what you need me to do. I guess that's the best way I can explain it for right now. I mean, without going into specific details.
So for me, I go back to, you know, when you're a boy, right? And I think of the single mom situation where, especially our young Black women today, they're in a situation where they have to protect their sons, not necessarily being in a relationship or having the stability of a man in their lives. They have to basically play both roles. So I go back to, you know, that childhood memory, being in a family with a single mom, and then being raised by my grandparents, which was grandmother and grandfather, which I had that father figure. For the first time in my life at 7, 8 years old, had a man actually giving me information that mom couldn't provide. So as far as protection, I think it starts at a very young age when a young man is taught to be a man, when he's taught to respect his elders, when he's taught to respect a woman. And as far as Black women, I think that one of the things today that is a really tough job. They do their best, and a lot of kids make it, right? A lot of kids make it, and they grow up and they make a difference. They have change in their life. They set a different course. But for the Black man who once upon a time was a boy raised by a mother that taught him X, Y, and Z, you know, some of that has to stick with him when he, you know, when you think about dating, right? You go to prom or you go to homecoming, depends on how you approach the girl when you're asking her. I didn't grow up in the era where you had to ask the father's permission, but I think about that. Long ago, before our time, you had to ask for permission. So I think the pedigree or the maturity level of being protected has somehow diminished. Like, we're not thinking about that protection today, right? No, I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning, and especially if I'm thinking from a man's perspective, I don't think we're thinking about that protection. We're thinking about getting it. We're thinking about being a provider. If we have children, we're thinking about providing for those children. If we're in a relationship, we're thinking about keeping that relationship strong and going. But I'm not sure if the mentality today is truly about providing and protecting at that level, right? And that's my opinion.
So I think what's interesting about that statement is when Tisha and Sonya were talking about what they need from their partner to feel protected, it was exactly those things. Having a provider was one of the top things that both of them mentioned that made them feel protected. So one of the other things is, are we just defining, you know, do men have a different expectation for what it means to protect women than what women are actually seeking? Because it sounded to me like the two ladies said, I'm looking for a provider. I'm looking for a man with confidence so that I know that he's confident in what he can do, you know, for me and help us build this life. But it sounds like the two of you guys are thinking that we want someone that's going to keep us in this bubble and do a lot more. Is that inaccurate? Am I misinterpreting that?
I think you have to also remember that men and women are different in the way we think. You see what I'm saying? Like, I always preach this. It has to be balanced. That's why whatever the creator is, I don't know what everybody's nationality or religious beliefs are, but whatever the creator is that created man and woman, that was the balance. It had to be a man and a woman to create this new life. So we get out of balance by having women raising men, because there's a balance. Women are going to be the emotional, hey, let me teach you how to care. Men are going to be, hey, let me teach you how to be tough. Okay, let me teach you how to provide. Let me teach you how to get up off your ass. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? And I'll use a very good example. A friend of mine was saying that, you know, his kids have a lot. And he's saying to the wife, hey, babe, these kids don't need nothing else. Okay. His thing is if you keep giving them everything and not letting them earn anything, they're going to become kids that believe that the world is supposed to be handed to them. They're going to become what's the word I'm looking for? It's on the tip of my tongue.
Entitled.
There you go. You knew what I was talking about. They're going to become entitled. So the way I think men do things is we're the long-term thinkers. I believe, in my personal opinion, that women are the short-term thinkers. Mm-hmm. And I'll use a better example. If in my household, I was paying the bills all the way, hey, everything was down to zero. My ex-wife at the time, or wife at the time, ex-wife now, said, well, let me take over the bills. And I was like, all right. As soon as she took over the bills, I started getting late notices. I started getting disconnections, shit like that. And I'm like, hey, I make sure that we're going to always have a roof over our head. You are putting us in danger by wanting to tit for tat these bills. You see what I'm saying? So it's like we just have a difference in the way we think. And that's why it has to be a man and a woman that has that balance. But the balance is off. That's the problem that we're having right now. The balance is off.
If I could just jump in real quick, because we everybody's got great things to say. And before we kind of deviate into some other questions, I just kind of want to hit on everybody's response a little bit. So Orlando, when you were talking about as we come up, especially people of color, okay, we just say people of color in general, we have it almost seems like there's so many different adversities that we're just faced with from the back, okay, that a lot of other people may not have. So when you have single parents, a lot of single parents, whether or not we're dealing with incarceration of the male and or female, that happens too, we're dealing with a lot of our young Black men and now women activists are being shot, or even if you're not an activist, okay, so you have a lot of them just being single parents, okay, and now you're having to fulfill a dual role at that. Whatever this, or it didn't work out, okay, whatever the situation is, to where now you're in a single parent home, trying to raise either a boy or a girl, female or a male, to the best of your ability. I do agree with the sense that there is supposed to be a balance here. A lot of women and some men are having to take on multiple roles. And if you just step back for a second, especially in 2020, now you see so many women not only do the duties of a male, and some men who are having to take on responsibilities of a female, but it's going way past that now. If you look, they're acting more like a male. They're thinking more like a male. You're not just saying, hey, let me get my son through, or back then it was, let me seek out another male or someone who can help me raise these children. Okay. From a female standpoint, a lot of times that's what they were looking for. A male role model when they were out dating. Do you like children? What are some of the first things they'll ask when you're on a date, right? Do you have children? Do you like children? We're trying to figure out, can you handle what I'm about to bring to this here table? Okay. And how can we go forward with that, and that you're not going to leave me and I'm back at square one? So that's the thinking. Well, it's almost kind of curving in 2020 or this new XY generation, to where we're just going to get rid of men altogether, right? Because we can do it all on our own. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have women who are just more and overly independent, if you ask me, and that's my opinion, to where you can't tell anybody anything, and they're out here raising males and females for that matter. And now that mentality goes into it. So Orlando, when you said that, it made me think of, we cannot forget, no matter how far in advance we get, that there is such a thing as a quote unquote generational curse that a lot of us have impeded on us. Okay, so we're dealing with that. So when we're talking about protection, and Shaw, I thought you were going to hit this in the beginning when you were dividing out LaTisha and my responses from Orlando and Brandon's, was the fact that one of the things I look into is that there is a nature versus nurture type of a deal going on. So the two females, our responses do tend to be more on the nurturing side. What we need, what can you do to help me feel secure and protected from an emotional, and where the males are more of that domineering, and my protecting, like you said, Brandon, is to provide. Okay, to keep you covered, to give the house, the bills. My son is out there, I'm in front of him when he's behind me. And so I see that difference. That was the first thing that I noticed with the responses that, was given And I just kind of think that there is an innate thing that allows us to be just that. And I personally don't see an issue at all with that. I think that we are respectfully in our roles. I think the disconnect comes when the line of respect for one another, especially being people of color, has gone so blurry that, you know, we have to try to find our way back. So when you speak, Brandon, about, you know, a person who, whether you were married, it doesn't matter whether you was married or whether you were just, you know, you procreated and had a child together and you married. The fact of the matter remains that you have a child with someone that you're no longer with. Can you handle mentally no longer being in the presence of that person and not cause right? Can you put that child first? You know what I mean? And can you separate yourself again from a female standpoint emotionally enough to put the child's well-being, you know, in front, so that you're not in a courtroom feeling like your ball's getting handed to you, okay? Or that you're fighting the judicial system. So we have so many things that I feel like once we get to a point to where we recognize what the problems are, not just that person against this person and this person against that person, and X against another X, okay, or male versus female. When we get to a point to where we can say within ourselves, this is the issue that I see with myself, and how can I better myself so that I can be an example for the next group, that can be an example for the next group, that will stick around, okay, and not be incarcerated or killed or something, or put yourself in a dangerous situation. Sometimes that's out of our control, but I'm saying the things that we can control, so that we can reach one, teach one, and pass that on to make some others aren't trying to figure this out. Okay, you got some girls out there that from here, they have no intentions of looking at a good male's heart. They're going to step on everything you have because that's what they saw their mother get, you know. And so we have to change that image on both our ends. So I'm not going to take it all over, but we're all hitting on so many good topics. And I think we got to take it all the way back to how can we stop it right then, because that is a curse that's carrying it forward. And we're not really stopping the curse. We're just making it, you know what I'm saying? Our kids are just carrying the torch for us.
Yeah, you just gave us a whole sermon.
You sure did. Oh, Sonya.
And I took some notes, you know, because you talked about the role of feminism. You talked about women, the hardening of women. You know, you talked about generational curses. You talked about recognizing, you know, that power exchange, and then the baggage that we all bring into it. One of the things that George, aka Brandon.
Yeah, I heard it call me that a couple times.
I'm sorry, it's your name on your.
No, it's cool. It's my middle name, but name that you see on the screen is my son's when he was using Zoom. So
George, I'm sorry, George.
It's okay. I said that just for people who will be listening, because this will be a podcast and a video. So for the people listening, they'll be like, "Wait, who is Brandon?" They didn't mention Brandon in the beginning. So Brandon is George. Right. So one of the things that, when Sonya, you mentioned the nature versus nurture difference with men and women, and both the guys mentioned that need for balance, and that's important. But one of the other things that we need to recognize is that disconnect, you know, with women wanting that nurturing and men being more of the power, you know, I'm going to provide for you, you know, this hardened more, you know, out of necessity. That's just the nature of men. They're not all the warm and fuzzy things all the time. But if women need that and they're not getting that, and that's what women need to feel protected, is that not a problem?
Is that a question for me to say?
That's for everyone.
Oh, okay. No, it's for me. It's not necessarily a problem, but I do think that you have to have a lot when you're talking about whether it's friendship or relationship. Mm-hmm. You have to have you have to know yourself. You have to know what it is. For me, I know what I can bring, right? So I need to make sure that not necessarily that I'm around like-minded people, but I think it's very, very important. I can give, I could be a giver. I can give. Eventually, if I'm not being refilled, that's going to cause a problem. So there is still a level of balance. And I think that just like men need us to to provide something specific to them, we have to be open and receptive to that, just like they need to be open and receptive to whatever it is that women may need. So no, and George, it was kind of funny for me to hear you say that it was hard for you to kind of let your significant other at the time take over the bills and you were getting late notices, because in my home here, I handle the finances. And that is something that my spouse is free of, unless he would like me to go over anything with him. Now, he has free access to whatever it is, but when it comes down to, bill reconciliation, deposits, drops, things of that nature, that's a Sonya thing. And he's happy to allow me to have that. So again, I think it's just because we're open enough to say, you're not less of a person because your wife takes care of the finances or the banking. I take the trash out. It's not, I don't care. I mean, do I understand the roles? Absolutely. When you come in my house, my spouse works 12-hour shifts 4 to 5 days a week. I'm a married single parent. You understand? So who got time to wait? What waiting game are we on? I want my daughter, part of that independence, that self-independence that she needs growing up, is to be able to say, why are you waiting on someone else to do something that you are fully capable of doing yourself? Or if someone is not around, how long are you gonna wait and let the trash pile up till your boyfriend or your husband pick it up? If they're not there, take it out. I'm no better. I don't see myself any higher. Now, if he's there, he'll do it. But I have to be okay with knowing that it's okay for me to take the trash out if I need to. He is okay with doing dishes if I've crashed because I, worked well past my shift and I'm juggling and going to school. It's okay. So, I mean, for me, it's not a problem. But again, you have to have that understanding in your household that, we have roles, but if you need to jump in and handle that, handle that.
I don't want you to get it misconstrued what I was saying. We've never met. And I just want to make sure that you understand that when I'm speaking, nothing is in absolutes. I'm just giving examples. The example that I gave was only because I was trying to explain how men think further ahead. We're the long-term thinkers. We're the ones that make sure that for the next year we're cool. Okay. So when I was giving an example, it wasn't to say that our roles couldn't be what they were. I believe whatever you and your husband do, if you want to be the worker and he wants to be a stay-at-home dad, that's y'all relationship. I believe in whatever relationship you're in, y'all make y'all own rules. You don't listen to the rules of society. Whatever's going to work in your household to make your household work and stay working, because it's a machine. A machine breaks down once a part breaks. If one of y'all break down, the other person got to pick up that role. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. I didn't want you to because I know that sometimes as men speaking to women, and I'm not trying to make this a men versus women because it's kind of already that, but it's when we speak, we're not, it's the old book, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. We see it from different perspectives. It's all perspective. So from the man's perspective, it's basically just saying, hey, I'm looking at, we cool now, but are we going to be cool from a year from now? Whereas most times women, and most times I say, again, I'm not speaking in absolutes. It's this, he says some but not all is a word that you might hear me use. Some but all is some, but not all couples will have whatever roles that they have. And the man or the woman may be like, hey, I'm stern on this. I'm not doing that. Those are the ones that I think personally might have a issue. But in our particular conversation, we were good with the roles. The only reason why I was saying this is because I knew that I was better with finances, making sure that we were straight, but it's a longer story to that, but I'm not going to get into it. You said something else that I should have wrote it down, but long story short, roles are not necessarily written in stone. That's what everybody needs to understand. That's what we need to understand as men and women, Black men and women. We need to understand that, hey, if you better at whatever, as long as it's good for us, then I'm cool with it. And we can't get caught up on the societal rules that say, hey, you got to do it this way and all of that kind of stuff. I just don't agree with society's rules. I think that whatever your household is, if you want to be the trash taker outer, take the trash out. That's between you and your husband.
Trash taker outer.
Okay.
And I guess I'm saying the same thing.
I'm gonna start being the trash taker outer.
Right. When I speak, I'm just saying, it doesn't necessarily mean that every household has to abide by the, ideologies of the society that is. I think we do agree on that. It's whatever, I guess, at the end of the day, whatever works for you and yours. And I think, but that does trickle into another thing, whether it be friendship or whether it be, a regular relationship. A lot of people want to put a, stamp on something and try to use somebody else, friendship, relationship, or whatever, and then try to mold that, for their friendship or relationship. That you cannot do that. So I guess my reply to what you were saying is, what works for me in my house, it pretty much is what works for me in my house. But don't go by me in my house if you hard and stern up on that. You know what I mean? That may not, you can't look at me and say that, well, let me try that if you know that ain't gonna work for you. Because I'm certainly not gonna try to, place that kind of a stipulation or demand on my house. I'm not gonna break my house. You see what I'm saying? But that again, that was just me. So I think we're saying the same thing. We're just saying.
I was gonna say both of y'all are kind of saying the same.
I was gonna say this. I was like, we saying the same thing. That's why I say we in the same. We got the same view, but we're in different rooms or something like. I mean, we're in the same building but different rooms. Whatever. Right. It's the same thing. Yeah. But that's the point I was trying to make. The point that I was trying to make is that just as much as women want men to understand them, y'all have to understand us as well. Y'all have to understand that we don't think that way. We think the way we think, and y'all can agree with this. A lot of women will love to try to make a man think the way that they want them to think. That's why I said that earlier. Just let the man be the man. If you said, hey, if you meet this guy and y'all talking and everything that he's saying, and you just met him today, and then y'all talk for a couple of days and he's saying everything good, and then everything that he's saying looks like is aligning with what he actually does, then okay, he's solid. We gonna probably, nothing's perfect. We might have a issue here and there, but he's solid. Okay. So my thing is, and I'm gonna just go ahead and jump into this part. When people are solid, fuck with a solid person. You know what I'm saying? Like stop fucking with these goofy ass niggas. And then a lot of I'm scared. Okay, my bad. A lot of these goofy guys that perfect time to segue into this. I asked a girl yesterday. I said, man, it's gonna get a little vulgar. I said, if y'all stop giving these goofy ass niggas pussy, then they'll stop giving goofy ass niggas. She said, well, as women, we have needs. And I was like, oh, so that constitutes a good reason to give the goofy nigga some pussy though, right? You still making him think that he's getting the reward for being a goofball. You know what I'm saying? You can't. My thing is, I don't reward my son for shit that he don't need to be rewarded for. And I'm gonna say the word again. Pussy is a reward. So,
it is.
So at the end of the day, stop rewarding goofy niggas.
Say it again.
A lot of the shit.
Say it again for the people in the back. Say it again, George, for the people in the back.
Pussy is a reward. Shit, we men do a lot of stuff just to get it.
Man.
I mean, I don't know more, but I mean,
they not made to do enough anymore.
That person knew, like, if her response to me, and maybe it's just me, if her response to your question was, well, women got needs, and to me, you can't really be looking for a solid person if that's not in your blinds, if that's not right here. Then, because just like, and I think sometimes, and I don't really know, guys, I never had a conversation about this really with another male, but I think there's a misconception sometimes with women and men, like that women don't think like men. We may not, some women don't speak on it, but there are some out there that want nothing more, nothing less than what y'all might want from a woman just at that time, or what have you. And they're really not looking for anything solid. But I agree with you, if you're wanting something solid, then you have to look at your priority list and your standards and your goals. But if all you really want and what, is the D, then it's really little effort that you know what I'm saying? It's really not a lot of effort that they're going to put into it. I
Hey,
guess
look,
that's me. But there are a lot of women who wanna flip that. You know, they get the D and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, how can we make this pop? You know, you really don't work like that, I guess. So I don't know.
Men do it too.
hey, can I ask y'all a question? Have y'all seen that meme that's floating around social media where the dude is sleeping on an air mattress and the air mattress is halfway out of air and you see his ass and all of that type of stuff, but it's like the room is junky and the caption says somewhere in the world there's two women fighting over this dude or something like that. Have y'all seen that meme?
I haven't seen
that one.
that.
You have to put that up for me.
The meme is hilarious because it's like, yeah,
True.
Right, you're right.
how is he even getting pussy right now? Because like
On an air mattress.
if it's such a reward
On an air mattress.
on an air mattress.
Because
Okay,
I
wait.
feel like-
I want to explore this though.
That's
So I
something
wanna-
for everybody.
On an air mattress.
But I want to explore that because see, here's the thing with that. I agree with you. You know, I'm not talking to you if you don't have a job, if you don't have a car, you know, if you behind on child support, you know, I'm not, and for several reasons. And I worked in family law. I understand there's a lot of reasons why men can be behind on child support and that we need to reform that. That's a whole nother issue. However, that's drama I don't want to have to deal with.
Exactly.
So that's why I have certain absolutes. I ain't gonna deal with it. But when we talk about that, we also have to talk about the label that women get, because I've had people tell me that I'm totally snobby because I'm just like, no job. I even have a thing, I go back and forth on men with kids, you know, and Tisha knows that. It's just, I've determined that I got a lot of selfish ways when it comes to my time and the drama. And I've had negative experiences dating men with kids where they had zero time to try to build something with me. And so I know I'm a really busy person, but I can carve out time and dedicate that time if I'm trying to build something with you. So on the flip side, we talk about the man on the air mattress, but maybe he's got a story. And this will be the same guy that'll say women don't want to work with you. You know, when you're down, don't nobody want to talk to you. You know, they looking past you. Now, my response to that is you're not in a place to date. You need to try to be working on getting off the air mattress.
Off the air mattress, dear. Yeah.
But again, but is that me as, you know, as a woman not being, you know, nurturing and protecting if I say, you know what, this brother is working hard. He's going to work every day, but he just doesn't have enough to get off the air mattress. I mean, let's for real. Like, we making jokes about it, but you know, there are people who may be doing their best at that point in time, but that's their situation. And do we, you know, what is your response to that? It's especially the guys. I want to know really what's your response to that, to women who really don't give those men the time of day. Now, I'm not talking about the man on the air mattress who just plays video games and smoke weed all day and he not doing anything.
I was gonna say, there's a big difference.
No, not that man, but the man who really is working,
Trying.
and he's trying, but he just don't have enough to get off the air mattress.
I think it goes back to what you said, what you opened up with, Charlene, is that protection, right? So if you've got, I think about some of the women today who are in a place where when it comes to protection, they're looking for that ball player. They're looking for that, you know, 6-figure, maybe 7-figure, depending on what they're looking for, but their needs are a lot far greater than the emotional need. So when we start to talk about the caliber of these individuals, you know, you've got a guy who, you know, sleeping on an air mattress, but he just lost his $100,000 job, you know, because of COVID. He ain't got no job. He's looking for a job, but he has the education, he has the talent. Maybe he's got money in his 401k, but he's not willing to pay the penalty. Maybe he's smart enough to kind of use as much of his resources before he goes down that route. But then you've got the guys they're in a place where they are secure, their grandkids are secure, they've got long money, and the type of women that are approaching them, the guard can be so low, right? That bar can be so low where, and you know, you hear about it all the time, but there's no one really chasing, or what do we used to call it, the chivalry, right? Pursuing, taking the time to get to know someone. So when I hear about this, I'm thinking, okay, if you do meet this poor dad, right, versus the rich dad, there's still potential for that poor dad if he has the qualities that a woman is looking for, right? Maybe he has that emotional connection. Maybe he sits on the phone with you, 8 hours a day or all night, or listen to you and your issues and things that you're going through and things that you need. Maybe he has a connection with God, right? Some religion, some type of connection religiously. And maybe he has these big dreams, right? He's thinking about the end game, right? He's talking about retirement. He's talking about college for your kids, right? So it's a lot of different aspects. But if we're talking about a brother that's just a down and outer, and he just doesn't have anything and he needs that guidance, a good woman might, if she's attracted to him, if the pheromones are buzzing and there's a vibe, she might give him the help that he needs so that he can.
She got needs. She's got
needs.
So, I mean, that's how I think about it. So it's tough. It's really tough today, though, because I think social media plays a role. What we see, what we want, not necessarily what we need to have a fruitful life, to say the least, right? So I think that's what you really have to boil it down to, is where do you want to end up and what type of person are you dealing with? Because most of us know ourselves, I think. Most of us know ourselves, but for the women that are chasing the guys that are on the high end of the spectrum and they're not taking the necessary steps to get to know them, then they're not protecting themselves. If I want to use the term, there's no protection there. There's just something fast. There's some quick energy, quick fix, and then there it is. So that's my perspective.
That's a good point. But then again, the caliber of person that you're looking for in a mate or a significant other play a big role too. I don't know if me personally, I would want somebody that's just going to want me when I'm up. So let's just go on and talk about energy, because that's one of the things that, we talk about protection a lot, and we talk about like a lot of physical and even emotional, but that energy, something else. And I don't want nothing like that around me. So I remember when I was dating, which was very few, I wasn't a big dater, right? So probably in my entire life, I may have dated 3 or 4 people tops. And it was because I was so EDU focused.
Girl, you lucky, Sonya. I've dated dozens.
Have you?
Dozens.
That's really
now. Don't get it twisted. Like, I didn't sleep with dozens.
Right.
Sound like a but I
gotta take a drink to this one.
I've dated dozens.
He said I've dated dozens.
Dozens, like over 100. Like, Keisha don't even want me to tell her about crushes anymore.
Oh man, that mini show.
It's a mess because I can eliminate real quick.
So just gonna say that's what she needed to mention. That's why she's dated dozens, because she cut them off like nothing. I just be like, well, you're not gonna give them another chance. No, I'm done.
But she got her standards though.
So if you're cutting them off like that, what you expect?
But if you know if you know what you want, then that's it. And it's like, I feel like it's gonna be somebody out there for somebody, and that person, when so if you, like he said, if you want somebody solid, if you're not solid, I don't care how cool you are, I don't care the kind of vibe we got going on, because a lot of people misuse that word vibe and like he say, pheromones. That's what we're gonna call it. Okay, temporary. Don't misunderstand what that really is, but if somebody who's gonna help me, don't elevate me, help me elevate myself. You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of one of those deals, but that's what I didn't really date, and it's just because I was so into school, trying to get through school. But when I did find somebody, and Tisha could tell you, because we grew up, together or whatever. Like, I wasn't trying to even, like, my husband, I remember he said, "Oh, I'm gonna marry you." I was like, I don't even like you. It's like I didn't really look at people like that because I was so busy. And I remember in school, nobody was like, "Dang, I want to date that person." I was always kind of like that. Oh, she a cool little chick. I was never like the person. Like, I didn't, like he say, social media today, we didn't really have all of that back then, but it was the same thing. If you weren't in a certain clique or, you know, you didn't look a certain way, you know, you didn't have a, you know, a Coke bottle shape or whatever the case may be, because I was a tomboy for the longest time and still kind of can do that. You know, I just learned as I've gotten older, I can rock a stiletto just as good as I can a J. Okay, so don't get it twisted, but that's a benefit my husband gets. But now today, you know, people are always like, you know, I had a crush on you, you know, when we was in school, you know that, right? I was like, child, bye. Okay. But my husband, when we were, you know, when I met him, it was times we went through and it was really good and really, really bad. You know what I mean? So from a time when I made a lot of money, you know, in nursing, to the time where I went down to poverty level pay so that I can go back to school for how, you know, 2.5, 3 years. I'm talking about crawling, a sneeze probably from homelessness, right? And there was ample opportunity for, you know, him to say, this not really for me. I can't get with that, you know, my woman has to have pain, certain level of standards, you know, and have to always hit it, just like Arlando said. What if you're going through? But then, you know, I crawled and got that second degree, you know, and when I came out of it, the Lord blessed me with, you know, the occupation I'm in currently, to where I'm not a materialistic person. So if you look at me, you know, you probably be like, oh, you know, she's just some old average. I can do what I want to do, you know, but I don't have to do that, and I don't have to flaunt it. So to that standard, it's like you can't always just look on the outside and be like, that ain't me, dog, you know, or whatever. You can, but then when you talk about solid ain't just on the outside, it's icing up too, right? So when you give somebody an opportunity to show you, and that's what I'm talking about. So many people talk, men and women alike. So many people talk. You sound good. So you talk about the guy on the air mattress. I bet them women ain't been to that house, but I bet he talked a good game into some draws. You see what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things.
Oh yeah.
So women, you can talk a woman into making her feel. So you got to be careful with that. Narcissism is real on both ends. So you can get talked into a lot of, and then all of a sudden your feelings is crushed, and now you have some kind of vendetta against men because you know all you did was listen and not watch the movement accordingly on both ends, you know. And so then you stuck feeling some kind of way about a male or a female, you know, or a zodiac sign.
That's true. There's some truth. There's a lot of truth in that. I'm just gonna say about the zodiac signs. There's a lot of truth in it. I'm gonna leave it at that. But no, the baggage is real, you know, because, and I think, Sonya, you are blessed that you didn't have to date, because the other thing, dating when we're in our 20s is very different from dating in our 30s. Dating when you are just starting out in life is very different from when you have things to lose.
Exactly.
You know, it's very different. And because you're protecting, you're thinking of where you should be, you're thinking more about protecting yourself, not just financially, but emotionally. Because one of the reasons I go out on dates and I cut folks off like that is because I got 3 jobs. I'm always working on a gazillion things. When I had a relationship that crushed me, that messed with my head for a minute. And that took my attention away from the things that I needed to do in terms of like work and taking care of myself. So for me, it's a big deal. Like I got too much to lose to put myself in the situation, because I've gotten so good. You can talk real great, but I can feel the energy, like that energy when you pray and ask God for discernment, He will give it to you. And so you ask for discernment before you give up anything. And then you know that's not for me. Now, if you're just trying to get your needs met and you don't want to get a toy, and they have very good toys, and I will have an episode about that next season to talk about that sort of thing. But they have lots of things that you can do and purchase to meet your needs. That's not the same as a person, but it doesn't have the drama that person could bring as well. Not to mention antibiotic resistant gonorrhea and unplanned pregnancy. So there are benefits to not getting your needs met with another person. But the baggage is real, and we all bring it into not just our relationships, our intimate relationships, but we bring them into how we deal with each other. And so one of the questions before we take a little intermission that I want to ask each of you is, and George, I think you want to say something. Do you want to say something?
I did, man. I I was still on because you asked the men the question, and I wanted to ask.
Please do. Please do. I know.
Just like women always do, y'all want to take over shit.
You better jump in, George.
Brought a buzzer.
I wanted, but I'm glad she did talk because she gave me some extra points to this point that I want to make. She has only dated a few men, okay, whereas you said you dated a couple dozen or whatever. I definitely have dated a couple hundred.
It sounds so bad when we say it.
No. We being grown now. We almost 40. Well, at least I'll be almost 40. But at the end of the day, we've lived life now to understand that there's a lot of stuff that we just were misinterpreting, or our parents just were misleading because they weren't being honest about certain things. So so my thing is her perspective is a little it's completely different from ours because she doesn't have the experience of having to deal with so many different people. Like she was even talking about energies. I'm big on energy too. I wasn't in my 20s. In my 20s, I was the dude on the air mattress talking game. Hey, look, I mean, I wasn't quite on the air mattress, but I didn't have all my stuff together. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I have no problem being honest with you. I'm still, I'm now on my comeback up. I had to hit rock bottom, and I can easily be the dude on the air mattress.
Yes.
But I'm not him because I'm getting up off the air mattress trying to get a bed. I'm setting goals. I'm not comfortable on this air mattress. I'm on the air mattress. It's only for an hour because I got to get up and get to it. So when you ask the question about the women who will date that guy, I can't completely bash it. It was a meme, you know, like social media does. Social media starts conversations and dialogues of things. And you can easily look at that picture and say, well, let's try and judge what he is by the picture, but we can just go ahead and make our own assumption about him. If I were to make my own assumption about him, and based on what the caption said, he was a bum. But there are guys that are sleeping on air mattresses that are about to be 100,000-aires next year and millionaires the year after that because they own their shit. Like I can easily, like I said, I could easily be one of those guys because I had my moment where I was at the top and then I flopped down to the bottom and now I'm on my way back up. You see what I'm saying? Because I'm
life. That's like, life.
Life happens, exactly.
Life.
So so life happens, and then she said something about
before you go on to your next one, if you don't mind, I was just gonna let me clear this up real quick.
She love bothering me.
I was gonna
nemesis.
We're building a bond. We're building something, George. I feel it deep down. You don't feel it. I just wanted to clear something up. And when I say I've only dated, 3-4 people in my life, there's a difference. When I say date, because I'm a 80s baby, just as y'all are. I mean, I've only dated. That don't mean I was never interacting or with other people. The thing was, I basically raised myself from the time I was 14 years on up. Okay, I had jobs, so my priorities were a little different, and I knew back then, because of the path that was set in front of me at that time and the things that I was dealing with in my home, substance abuse issues and all this other stuff, right, that leads to generational curses that we hadn't gotten quite there yet. It wasn't so much that I'm inexperienced. There's a difference between not inexperienced and just not and knowing what you wanted. I knew then I didn't have time to be committed. See, when I say dating, I mean committed. I didn't have time to be committed to somebody. So we're talking about a needs basis, right? So I knew going in what I wanted. I knew what I didn't want. I don't have time to sit here and patch you, pacify you, build up with you, things of that nature. It just wasn't in my curve at the time. So I'm not inexperienced with the opposite sex or
I apologize.
And stuff of that nature. I've had plenty of those moments. The thing was, from an actual commitment standpoint, I wasn't like, and I just because I had to jump into that so early, my mindset was a little different. You know what I mean? So I had to mature, quote unquote, mature a little bit earlier. And it was like, I got this, I got priorities. And if that's what you want, that's cool. I can't mess with that right now. But when I was ready, I was ready. Go ahead into your second one, George.
Yeah.
But
The
George,
mic is
I
all
was going to say for George, you know, when you were talking about the person on the mattress, that's the difference. Like what you said, I loved how you said that. You said, you said something about, I may be the guy on the mattress, but I'm only going to be there for an hour because I'm ready to get back up. Well, see, we women can see in a man if he has the potential to get up off that mattress.
You know what? Let me jump in real quick. See, the thing about women, we see who you are before you know who you are.
Exactly.
And it takes a lot out of you. I can write books about it because I'm a giver and a nurturer. I'm a very impatient person, but I see potential and talent in people. That's a gift. And in a partner, if I see that you're not just taking from me and I see that you have a gift or a talent, I will pour into you. Now, when I get tired, because my needs aren't being met, and I'm not just talking about physical things, I'm talking about more emotional things, because money and all that stuff, even is for me, my emotional needs are the most important. All that other stuff I can go buy or pay somebody else to do. You know, it's the emotional stuff. But women can see into men before they know who they can become. And I think it's that men know that power that we have, that intuition that we have. And that scares the hell out of y'all. A lot of men are afraid because with us seeing your potential, we also see where you slacking. Like you could be up here, but you're not up there because you doing all this other stuff. And that's scary for men. So,
and a real man gonna love you for that. A bum ass nigga gonna get mad and insecure. And his insecurities is gonna go
or a man who's not ready.
That just touched me, George. That just touched me. Oh man,
I'm gonna keep it a buck. Like I said,
say that again, George.
I can.
A real man is going to accept that, but a bum,
his insecurities is gonna take over. I'm sorry. Did I say a word?
Her screen just froze up. I think the Lord was still in her, and it was divine intervention at that moment.
That doesn't mean that, but I think it doesn't mean that when people don't recognize the good in you, the good in you, the good in you, and the good in you, the good in me, that doesn't. I kind of leave that blind. You know, I don't put too much into that because some people, no matter how bad we want them to be ready, they ain't ready. They are not ready. And that may come later on, but guess what? By then, ain't no who waiting. You miss that train, right? So sometimes it's just a matter of, now you're right, because sometimes people see that and they use that, you know, but sometimes it's just a matter of they just young in the mind, they just not there yet. Everybody's not there yet. We ain't all built the same way.
So here's a word that we haven't used in this conversation yet that I wrote in my notes. One of the biggest words I wrote down was accountability.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, accountability is the word that speaks to every individual, because your accountability is your accountability, Sonya. Yours is yours, Arlando. Yours is yours, Charlene. And whenever LaTisha come back, hers is hers. I can't force you to be accountable. You have to want to do that on your own. And when you want to be accountable, you will, and you will want to become a better person. And then when you want to become a better person, you will become a better person. So at the end of the day, kind of jumping back to the original topic, which was the accountability, I in my personal opinion, it started to dwindle. I don't really have a specific time frame, but somewhere in the 60s, 70s, when the Jim Crow era was ending, and our parents were kind of still trying to figure things out because freedom had just became so new to them. And you know, I'm trying to stay on topic without going into other stuff. But long story short, our parents were still trying to figure it out. Okay. They were trying to figure it out. And in the same time that they were trying to figure it out, it's just like us. We're trying to figure it out. We don't have all the answers. I just now at almost 40 years old started to come into an understanding of what life really is. I didn't know for 40 years because nobody was really guiding me the right direction. You know, they were trying to do the best that they can. I don't want to take nothing from my parents and grandparents, but a lot of them were doing the best that they can because they had what they had. And it's just like with us. We can do better with our kids, and we gotta teach them better than what we were taught. My son, I tell him all the time, It's two things. Well, it's a list of things he has to remember. If something ever happens to me, first thing is I love you no matter what. Don't ever let nobody tell you different. Second thing is be better than me. When I say be better than me, I have to explain to him that being better than me means that whatever I thought was right growing up, I'm teaching you what is right for real. Because at the end of the day, what I was taught, a lot of what I was taught was cool. A lot of what I was taught was it just needs to be revamped. It just needs to be updated. It's just like our computers. They need to be updated and get the new software and all the, the newness of everything that's going on in the world. So accountability is one of the biggest things to me, because you have to be able to say, hey, I fucked up, or I am fucking up. And when you say that, then you start to say, okay, well, I'm going to try and fix it. And that's my biggest thing on this, in this entire conversation, is the accountability of, because I think we kind of slightly got, Charlene, you supposed to be doing something. We still talking about protection.
We are because, and you know what? And you are so wonderful, because you gave us a good point for us to take a break. Because the second portion, we're going to talk about solutions, and accountability is a big part of that. But before we do that,
did y'all see how God shut me out?
I saw it, girl. It was divine intervention.
He said, cut, because you
won't do it.
I said, oh, wait, Jesus. Oh, I was shaking. He said, cut. Woo!
Oh, Lord.
Y'all know that. Y'all know you spoke a word on that one with me, babe. You spoke a word.
I said it. I must have spoke a word. I said
all I got to say is it takes a real man to say what you said about how a real man will like how a woman will identify his good and his bad. That's pretty much what you were saying. And I know a few men who struggle with that, but yet they have that I'm the man type, persona. But yet they lack the ability to admit their shortcomings.
Yeah. You kind of missed that part because you were gone, but I said something about how our parents kind of misled us in a lot of things. And that's one of them. One of the things I teach my son is how to be accountable for his insecurities. And hey, man, if you're insecure about something, you gotta move on from it. You got to figure out how to conquer that. You can't
just be vulnerable enough to admit that, so that we can work together to fix it, because it's okay to be insecure, but
communication goes a long way with that.
Yes, too, and you have to voice that and be okay with that. So many men, they have a problem with showing vulnerability with their spouses or with anybody. It's like they gotta feel like they tough. When really it's okay to soften up and with the person you love. Say how they're making you feel. Give them that vulnerability. That so that you guys can work and grow together with what makes you uncomfortable. But it's so many men that don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's gonna be our second part of the discussion. Before we take a break, just to connect the dots, because George just said we got off track, but we really didn't. Because when we talk about protection, it's it's not really this simple, this straight line discussion. When we talk about protecting one another, it's really about perceptions, expectations. It's about vulnerability, you being able to do a self-assessment. What is it that I really need? I think Sonya might have said, we all know ourselves, or George, you might have said that, but I don't think a lot of people really do. I've certainly been in relationships where I thought what I wanted at the time wasn't really what I wanted. Because if I had really wanted that, I've said for years, I wanted to be married. I wanted to have a family. But I have to question, did I really want that? Because if I had, I wouldn't have entertained some of the people I entertained. So when you really do a self-assessment and you look at the situations that you've been in, or even your own actions, and this is not about putting on that other person, but when you look at yourself, who am I choosing to get my needs met by? Who am I choosing to give my heart to? Who am I choosing to nurture? Who am I choosing to pour into? Like Sonya, who am I choosing to give my time to? When those choices require you to do a lot of self-assessment, and you've got to do that self-assessment first before you can give to another person and protect somebody else, and even know what it is that you need to feel protected. So all the things that we just talked about when we talked about, roles in our relationships, generational curses, what our parents may or may not have taught us, it's all related because it goes to that concept of figuring out what is it that you need to feel protected? What is it that you give somebody else so that they feel protected? How are you even aware if you're getting your needs met? Sometimes for some people, if the sex is good, they think their needs are met. If they bills paid, they think their needs are being met. It takes something else to show them, what, this is lacking. So we really have been talking about protection because it's a lot of surface things. I think when we see the memes circulating around, you can take it from two or a lot of different perspectives. When we talk about activism, and things that happen to women like Breonna Taylor, that's a different sort of protection. When we talk about, the misogyny in music and in the Black men who chose to vote for 45, as I call them, that's a whole nother thing. There's a lot of different levels to reasons why Black women may not feel protected. And there's also a lot of reasons why men don't feel protected because a lot of women do a lot of male bashing. There's a lot of, on Father's Day, there's a lot of women who can't celebrate the good fathers. They want to take that day away. So there's a lot of levels to this concept of Black women not being protected, of Black men being left to fend for themselves. And so we're going to talk about solutions to all of that. And we just lost Tisha again. So this is a good time to take a break while she refills her drink and gets reconnected. And when we come back, we are going to talk about accountability and how we can improve the way we communicate, the way we protect and nurture each other. So join us for the next episode, audience, where we will give y'all some solutions or brainstorm some action items that we can do to feel more protected and do a better job of protecting our partners and just the men and women in our lives. So we'll be back. Until next time, on her terms. I am your host, Charlene Ketchum, with my buddies, Sonya, George, and Arlando, and Tisha, who will be back when we return.